Hello, everyone, and welcome to Columbus Metropolitan Club. I'm Carol Nuka-Maludo. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees for CMC. It's great to see everyone here, all 200 plus of you. Thank you for coming. Today, CMC is brought to us with support from Isaac Wiles, BDO, and Columbus State Community College, each of whom have many friends and associates in the audience today. Please help me thank them. And I am very pleased to introduce and welcome Dr. David Harrison, who's been a friend of CMC for a number of years. Please introduce our forum.
Thank you, Carol. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real honor for me to be able to introduce my friend Cameron Mitchell. It was 5 years ago that I was in Cameron's office talking about this idea of a new school of hospitality management and culinary arts at Columbus State. And in that first conversation, Cameron looked at me and said, "How do we make that happen?" And that was really the match that lit the fuse. Cameron has certainly brought his personal philanthropy to the table, philanthropy of his company to the table. He and his team have worked shoulder to shoulder with our team to develop not just a building, but really an idea that can be catalytic for the industry, but also for the entire community. The synergy between his team and ours are down here. Nothing else is happening in our culinary department today other than this lunch. But it's really going to become what I think will be one of the best examples of public-private partnership anywhere in America. It's Cameron's leaning in early on that allowed us to bring state support, allowed us to get the city involved. And if you haven't been on Cleveland Avenue recently, urge you to drive by because it's going to be certainly prominent on our campus, but really will be a focal point for what the mayor calls the Opportunity Corridor along Cleveland Avenue. Working together, it's also afforded me the opportunity to observe Cameron as a leader, and our cultures are different. I remember the first time I met in Cameron's office. It was a 5 o'clock meeting, and I walked in, and the young lady who was working there said, "Red or white?" I said, "Red or white what?" I just wasn't sure. And she held up 2 wine glasses, and I knew I was in a different place than I had left. Now, we haven't adopted that custom at Columbus State, but there's a lot that I really have learned. And the way Cameron Mitchell Restaurants treats its associates, and the way in turn their associates treat their customers, is something that's intentional. And again, I've had the opportunity to observe that over the last several years, and we're all fortunate that Cameron has taken the time to put it in a book. So please join me in welcoming founder and CEO of Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, Cameron Mitchell, and our host, journalist at WCMH NBC4, Monica Day.
Thank you. Now that is the way I like to start a meeting, red or white. For me, it's always red.
We have vodka too, Dave.
Yeah, anything, really. Just bring it around. It was my honor to be here today. When I was asked if I would want to be a part of this event, the answer was yes, very quickly. Not only because I enjoy coming out and meeting new people and being a part of the community and groups like this, but because I am a raving fan not only of Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, but of Cameron Mitchell, the man. The fact that you have this book out now and you talk so candidly about your life, your beginnings. I just think it's a wonderful thing for our community. It's a wonderful thing for the restaurant industry. For those of you that don't know, I grew up in the restaurant industry. It is a tough business, and to make it is even tougher. To make it at the level that Cameron Mitchell has made it, if you think you're going to get there, you're dreaming, but it's possible. It is possible, and you've laid so much of that out, and I think it's just great for all of us to be able to look at that and kind of learn from the things that you have done. We're going to talk a little bit about you, a little bit about the book, a little about the industry today. The first chapter, I thought I knew a lot about your life. I was reading that and just blown away. If you haven't read the book yet, get the book, read the book. But how did those early years, which weren't all roses, how did that shape you and shape the success of your business?
Well, I had quite an auspicious upbringing. The first line of the book, very first chapter, first line, as I was driving home with Mom, 9 years old, and I asked what time Dad is coming home, and that's when she told me Dad wasn't coming home, and that's when my life started to unravel at that point in time from there and get progressively worse all the way to high school dropouts and all sorts of other precarious situations, and then to my ultimate high school graduation as 592 out of 597 in my class, and 1.05 GPA because I got 1 C in public speaking, believe it or not. And anyways, but that kind of beginning, and I grew up in the have-not section of town. I lived in Arlington, and my mom was an administrative assistant, and I had to work in the lunchroom in high school my sophomore year to get lunch because she couldn't afford to give me lunch money and so forth. So that kind of I think has created in me a sense of generosity, coming from nothing and having something today. Is never forgotten that beginning. Never people joke with me, you can make a living being a homeless guy, just walk around 20 feet in front of me and I'll give you a $20 bill every time I walk by. So I just, and that giving back to the community and giving people chances, second, third, fourth, fifth chances, understanding the human condition and human frailty, and especially in the people business that we're in today. I think that background has afforded me a unique lens to observe the world and to lead a group of people through.
And you give back so much. This year we had a backpack campaign at NBC4 where we were trying to get 50,000 backpacks for Columbus City schools. That's a lot of backpacks. And there were a lot of businesses that stepped up and wrote checks and had drives, and some businesses, adopted schools. We had some big industries. Cameron Mitchell Restaurant stepped up. We had a truckload of backpacks that your associates filled. We came out to the restaurant and got them that day to help out. They didn't have to do that. It was just something that they wanted to do. Why is it, how does that play into the success of your restaurants, do you think, your willingness to give?
Well, and I talk about that in the book too. It's not a strategy. It's we don't give along the way for our marketing campaign and do this because we think it'll get us there, here, or there. There's none of that. We don't operate with our associates. Our associates come first. We don't deeply care about our associates because we're trying to manipulate them into doing certain things. It's just a matter of operating from the heart. It's just the way we do. It's who we are. And when that's who you are, that becomes the way you do. So it's not a strategy with us. It's part of our framework of who we are.
People, I think, really respect that. They respect you. I want to go back to a time where someone that I think you respected, and you put this in the book, gave you an opportunity. Dick Stopper, Richard Stopper, fired you, giving you an opportunity to fly. What did you think in that moment? Yeah, this is my big shot now.
No, I didn't elaborate totally in the book about that, but Richard was my old boss at the 55 Group, my first job out of college. I had previous hospitality jobs, but it was my first, I guess, real job, if you will. And I worked there for 6 years, and Richard always, even in the beginning, said, "We've got the wrong roles here. You should be number one, I should be number two." And instead, he was number one, and I was number two. And we did well, and he was a great guy, and towards the very end, I got frustrated. I always wanted to be president of a restaurant company. That was since I was 19, 18 years old. That's been my goal. And so I started to hit my head on the ceiling of the 55 group, and I was at Spagio's one night on a Friday evening at 9 o'clock, and Chef Hubert was there. I was meeting a friend for a drink, and Chef Hubert was there, and the dining room was packed, and he was out. Kitchen rush was over, so he was out in the dining room entertaining guests, and I just had another epiphany right there where I just said, that's it, I'm going to start my own restaurant company. So up until that very 9:15 on that Friday night, the goal was to be president of a restaurant company. On 9:16 that Friday night, I was to be president of my own restaurant company that I was going to start. And so in my excitement, my wife will tell you I can't keep a secret. I'm horrible. So I just, I started telling people, yeah, I'm going to start my own company. And then it got back to Richard. And I was planning on leaving 6 months or a year, to get my ducks in order and so forth. And so I was out in the car with him driving around, and he asked me, his silence in the car and tension you could feel, and he says, where are you going to be a year from now? I said, I'm not sure. And he goes, are you happy here? I said, I am, but I'm not, and I want more. And so more silence till we got back to the office, and that was like a Wednesday or Tuesday, and he called me to the office Saturday morning, and I knew it was coming. As soon as I walked in, I knew what was going on, and he said to me, it's the best way to be fired, with love and concern. He said to me, this is going to be, the opening line was, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you in your life, and it's time for you to fly, and as of now, you're no longer with, 55 Restaurant Group. And so that was Saturday morning, and I have another member of the audience here. Bruce Burkholder here is my longtime attorney and friend and confidant. I called him up Saturday morning at 11 at his house at home and said I'm out, and I think he met me Monday or later that day, even I can't remember, and helped, was one of many, many people along the way that helped get us started, and here we are. So it was a difficult time, but really I wallowed from Saturday morning till about Monday morning at 9, and then I got up and got after it.
Did you take that to kind of fuel you to propel this a little faster?
No, well, I mean, no. I mean, my entrepreneurial drive is what propels us to move faster and to push, and I've been certainly guilty of pushing too hard a lot in life, but, I think certainly it did, I was I was just there. I had either to make it happen or not, and so it was an arduous 14 months. I have a picture on my desk of my rolling change to buy groceries. I was down to my last $70 before I got the first restaurant deal funded, and I was completely broke. And I love to tell the story. I had a couple friends at the house where I was helping feed lunch because we were working on helping me on this project, and we went to the grocery store, and one gal got some pickles, and she came back with Food Club pickles. Now, mind you, I have $70 to my name, and I go, you can't have Food Club pickles. You got to get Aunt Jane's. They're much better. And she goes, well, they were $1 more. And I said, well, that's okay. I said, go get the Aunt Jane's. And she says, okay. She starts to walk away with the Food Club pickles. I said, no, keep those here. We'll have a blind pickle tasting back at the house. When we get back in the house. Sure enough, 4-0, the Aunt Jane's pickles won. But I always joke with people, if you ever question how deep my commitment to quality runs in my it runs pretty deep. So, anyways, but we made it, and I wrote a check back for $7,000 after I was able to break escrow in March of '93, and lived off that till we opened up October 5th of '93, and we've opened about 90 restaurants since then.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
Now, in the book, you talk about getting the funding for the restaurant, and that there were a lot of people that told you no. A lot of people told you yes. How did you keep going when people said no to you? That had to hurt.
Yeah, it was a very difficult time. I had, in the very beginning, I started about 250 names. I was blessed to be with the 55 group and oversee their operations, so I worked in the dining rooms, and I got to know a lot of people in the city. And like my insurance guy was one of our guests, and so I called him up. I said, if if you invest in my restaurant, I'll buy insurance from you. So we got that little quid pro quo going, but
Smart.
but he had seen me in action, so he was okay with that. So he thought I had a fighting chance, as he put it. So anyways, so of the 250 names, I had 225 say no. So really, it was 9 out of 10 people saying, they'd say it politely, but they
Sure.
would say, no thanks. And it was a struggle, and it is always a struggle to raise capital. But we made it through, and I'll never forget, I really didn't date. I didn't have any money to date, but I didn't really have any confidence either, because it was just, and it was very, a lot of times depressing and so forth. But, when you have an entrepreneur's dream, I mean, there is no choice. You have to just pick yourself up by the bootstraps and just keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what comes at you. So,
Yeah. Incredible. You've definitely kept kept that going. One of the things that you always talk about too, your associates and giving people second chances. And these, is it the 3 A's? What are these A's?
well, that's a double question there, really. When we talk about second chances, for example, I always tell people, if you meet someone who got fired from Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, you've got to pat them on the back because they did a really good job. They worked hard at it. It's hard. It's hard to get fired. And it stems back from, it's unbelievable, it's true, but it stems back from when I was, my critical moment in my career, when I was the laziest guy in the kitchen at Max and Irma's at 19 years old. I just turned 19. I'd been working for beer money, lazy attitude, always late. I just got suspended for 3 days. I was on 30 days probation. And I was late after my probation again, and I was just going to get fired, but the manager on duty said, get on the floor, and that was on a Tuesday, and if he would have fired me then, I wouldn't have had the chance to have the epiphany that I had on Friday, which was, I love this restaurant business, I'm going to do this the rest of my life, and it changed my way. And so I went on Friday. I was the laziest guy working in the kitchen, and I wrote out my goals Friday night, woke my mom up at 1 in the morning. Saturday morning, I was the hardest working guy in the kitchen working for my career. And so you never know when you're, I honestly believe in my heart, you're this far away from turning someone around, especially when they're having trouble. So we'll go kind of to the nth degree to try to find that on button. And we have many, many, many stories in CMR of people who were almost fired, and we ended up getting them back and getting them on the right track, and now they're very successful with our company today. So that's that story. Then, as far as the 3 A's go, it's acknowledge, apologize, and act. And so when we make mistakes, we talk about firing people for making mistakes, we can't, because I'd be the first to get fired. I've got the biggest mistakes I've ever made in a company. No one's even come close to the size of mistakes that I've made. Last I checked, I still have my job. So I haven't been fired yet, so we can't be in the business of firing people for making mistakes. Now, and I call the two things are mistakes of the mind and mistakes of the heart. If they're mistakes of the heart, those are kind of fireable offenses if you are if your heart is not in the right place. You're doing things, but a mistake of the mind, you made a mistake, you did, it's not that critical as long as we learn from it and grow from it. But my whole thing is, whether they're guests or associates, we've made mistakes with associates, or whether they're guests, or whether it's your spouse, or whatever, no matter what it is, 95% of the time, if it takes, and it's also a great exhibit of leadership too, especially when leaders do it. But if you actually, acknowledge you made a mistake, and then you apologize for making a mistake, and then you act on that on top of that, I believe 95% of people will forgive you. But it's when we don't do that, if we make a mistake and we act like we're too big to acknowledge our mistake, or we can't say or bring ourselves to say we're sorry or something like that, that's where forgiveness doesn't come easily. And I can forgive anybody for anything, basically, almost any time, and because I've had so many people forgive me for my wrongs over the years. So it's just, if we do that, and if we teach that, and we preach that, I think we get good results. And then on top of that, we have so many loyal guests out there because we originally screwed up with them.
Yes.
It creates opportunities to strengthen bonds between the associates in the company or guests in the company or anybody or the community in the company, whatever. So I'm not afraid of the mistakes. It's what we do afterwards. It's what I'm scared of.
I think people could carry that into many walks of life, many different industries, that concept. In your book, kind of the last section, you've got a lot of letters, kind of accolades, and they're not letters about you. They're letters about your associates going above and beyond. Why was it important for you to include that?
Well, I think, well, first of all, as I'm writing a book and editing the book, it sounded a lot like me, about me, and I didn't want it to be about me. I didn't even want the company to be about me. If anybody knows, in the beginning, we're the Clean Plate Restaurant Group, and then we're to Dine For Restaurants, and everybody kept saying, just call it Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. I'm like, okay, fine. It wasn't what we set out to do, and I didn't want the book necessarily. It is a memoir, if you will, but I didn't want it to be all about me, and it's really about our company. It's a legacy piece for our people, and it's about our people. I say our company is built by its people, for its people. We don't have investment bankers. We don't have a bunch of demanding partners. We don't have wealthy owners, et cetera. It's built by our people, for our people. And so I wanted the book to be about our people too, and it really is, and about our company. And that's what I tell people all the time. As CEO of a restaurant company, you would think I'd say the guest is most important, and it's not true. In fact, I'm even brazen enough to say we don't have a direct relationship with our guests. We have a direct relationship with our people. We see them every day, day in, day out. Our guests come once a week, once a month, once every few months, once a year, sometimes, unfortunately, once and never. But hopefully not too many of those. It's the people. And so I look as a triangular relationship. We take care of our people take care of our guests, and our guests take care of our company. And only when our people know how much we care about them will they ever begin to care about our guests, because they actually care about us. And so they show that by the care for our guests. And it just floors me sometimes in the hospitality industry that, the seniors up on top say, demand this great guest service from their people to the guests, and meanwhile then treat their people like crap along the way. To me, it's just an oxymoron. So I tell our people all the time, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants is your Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. The reputation is your hands. I'm a desk jockey. They're the ones out there creating that moment of truth between the guest experience when that guest pushes away from the table. It's our people and the stories, and I only put a handful in there. We've got hundreds and thousands of stories over the years of our people making a difference in our guests' lives, and that's probably one of the greatest opportunities in the hospitality business that we have. And so it just felt right to make sure that we included a lot of those examples at the end of the book, and to reiterate our culture and values at work.
One of those letters is about a little boy in the hospital, and once, I think it was orange chicken, and the restaurant didn't actually make orange chicken. Molly Woo's, right?
Molly Woo's, yep.
Molly Woo's. They didn't make the orange chicken. It's not even on the menu. But they say, hold on, let me call you back. So they decide they're going to make this orange chicken. Not only make this orange chicken at Polaris, they're now going to drive it to Children's Hospital so that this child has this orange chicken. I mean, I'm reading this as a mom, and I'm getting choked up. For you, how do you feel? I mean, that must give you an extreme sense of pride for something like that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the title of the book. Yes is the answer. What's the question? It's if there's a way we can do it, we will. And I love that. It epitomizes everything we preach, everything we do. We've got hundreds of stories like that. And that's what the whole milkshake is based on. Is yes is the answer. Which is symbiotic of our culture and values. And so, I love those stories. If you want to see the hair get up on the back of my head, and see I hear a story of our people saying no. We can't do that for some reason. And I had another story. This just happened a couple of weeks ago. I got an email from my friend Michael Honig, and Michael Honig is of Honig Cellars, winemaker who I befriended over the years, and he happened to be in our Denver restaurant, unbeknownst to me. and unbeknownst to anybody in the restaurant, just had to force him in there, was entertaining some clients, and he ordered a bottle of Honig. And server says, I'm sorry, we don't have that. Comes back, goes to get it, comes back, says, I'm sorry, we don't have it. And he says, well, can I order this then? And the server said, fine. And they go back, and a couple of minutes later, the server arrives at the table with a bottle of Honig Sauvignon Blanc, and the exact wine that he asked for. And he said, oh, you must have found a bottle back in the back. He said, no, I ran across the street to Capitol Grill and grabbed one of theirs, and I brought it back. And and he served it, and he did not know that was Michael Honig. He had no idea. And that's when Michael told him, and Michael sent me this note and said, I just want to tell you an example of just incredible raving fan service that we exhibited at your restaurant. And yeah, they shouldn't have been out of the Honig in the first place. Let's get that on the table. That happens, but it shouldn't happen, and if we're doing our jobs properly, but sometimes it does. But we made it happen, and nobody knew who he was, and you just never know. It doesn't even matter. Judging a book by its cover, whatever. It's just I hate that when that happens too. Some servers sometimes tend to do that, and they have no idea who they're dealing with sometimes, and so just my approach is just take care of everybody. I say I don't care if someone's black, white, male, female, 8 or 80. I love to take care of people, so it doesn't matter to me.
It's important.
So, yeah.
Speaking of people and kind of influencing, touched on it a little bit, what you're doing with Columbus State. I mean, this is going to be huge. How are you hoping to influence the next generation and kind of get millennials to be raving fans of Cameron Mitchell restaurants?
Well, 2 more years from now, I celebrate 40 years in the restaurant business. So I tell people I'm in the 4th quarter of my career, and I got my low fuel light on, and so I trying to give her all she's got here, and so I'm trying. My 2 words come to mind for me going forward in this 4th quarter of my career is that's strategy and stewardship. And strategy, simply put, in terms of the company and helping, I want Cameron Mitchell Restaurants to be around 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years long after I'm in the big restaurant in the sky. And so that's my strategy. That's my strategy work to help make sure that happens. But I'm no longer really doing the heavy lifting and so forth. But so that's a little S. The big capital S is stewardship. And what I'm trying to do there, and the book is part and parcel to that, to share our story, and I've been asked so many times for it, and the lessons, and how our culture is applied, et cetera. But then we have Columbus State, which is a legacy project, which I can't even quantify. I've tried, but it's impossible to quantify the impact on Columbus in 2030 and 2040 as Columbus goes from 2 million in the metro area to 3 million in the metro area. And these young culinarians, if they get a world-class education to come out, and Columbus State does a great education already as it is. I'm not trying, but we want to take it up a notch or two. And I look at this project, this is not a let's get the doors open. We're leaning into this thing for many, many years. I look at it, we're just halfway through. When the doors open, we're just kind of halfway through that project. And but the results of that will be spectacular in the lives, the young people's lives that will be impacted by that, and the opportunities created. Then we have, in fact, I'm doing it tonight. I've got a meeting tonight. I started a young leadership group with, I have 6 restaurateurs I meet with bi-monthly here in Columbus. They have 1, 2, or 3 restaurants. We meet we're doing 4 to 9 tonight. We break bread and talk shop, and I try to help them navigate through some of the pitfalls that I made it through, and help them along the way. And I used to have this very competitive nature, and didn't really like my competitors very much, or any competition whatsoever. Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's true, though. And but I've gotten mellower in my age, and so now I'm trying to, I believe in all boats rise. So we're trying to help these young restaurateurs out and move forward. And we have this Bud Dairy Food Hall project we have coming up. That's where we're hoping to get the next generation of hot chicken takeover, Jenny's Ice Cream, we have 10 kitchens in the food hall here, along with several bars and community spaces and so forth. It's going to be a great place to be. But the idea is hopefully taking these young people from ideation to the food hall experience, and hopefully to bricks and mortar and live businesses after that. So, and then we have our young leadership group within our company, and you're asking about the millennials, which I'm really finding millennials are getting a bad rap to a certain extent, because the millennials we have in our company work their tails off. They are just as hard workers as my generation was. So I'm not really seeing that, but they do want to be involved, and so we've got a class of 18 in this group right now that they work side by side for over a year on. We split them in half, and half are working on our Bud Dairy Food Hall project and all that ideation, and to the whole, to design soup to nuts, top to bottom, with all of our senior leaders, so they get a very good picture of the whole idea of starting a restaurant from start to finish, or a business. And then we have the other half on the Del Mar project, which we have opening next spring in the Short North, which is our Pacific Coast eatery. And then we have an upstairs rooftop bar called Lincoln Social, which will be a 140-seat rooftop bar on the 9th floor. So this team of 9 is working on that start to finish, the design of it, the kitchen layout, the menu, everything. And so we bring those people together too. So just everything I could think of to do to help moving forward. I'm on a KIPP board here. I saw Hannah Powell here, and that school out there is phenomenal. 2,000 kids, K through 12. The impact of that school on this community and the education that it provides represents about 4% of the kids at Columbus Public Schools that are underprivileged kids that will become privileged kids graduating that way with a great education. Those things are changing our environment and changing our community, and legacy projects that I want to be involved in. So, if that makes sense.
One last question from me, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. What is next for you? I know you've touched on a few things, but what else do you have coming down the line?
One of the things we're trying to do right now is get in the hotel business. We have, it's always been a dream of mine. I've always wanted to be in the hotel business, and but I've always been afraid of the development aspect of it, because I don't really know that. And so we've partnered with a developer friend of ours to try to look into that, and to maybe get into that and stretch our wings that way. It's hospitality. It's still, it's different, but there's a lot of similarities to it. I think really just continuing to work on our company and continue to work on the strategy and stewardship as best I can. And my wife and I, it's our 25th anniversary. We're going to be empty nesters pretty soon. And
Congratulations.
Thanks. So I told her I'm not going to retire. She's like, oh, thank God, because I can't have you around all day long. But I do want to slow down a little bit, and travel. So hopefully we can do some of that and see our kids and wherever they're at and that sort of thing. So that's really about it. I don't just kind of slowly, gracefully.
Gracefully slowing. By the reaction from the table, I don't know if you were supposed to mention the hotel.
Oh, they don't.
I see a lot of people
Hey, I already
going,
said I can't keep
"Okay,
a secret. What's
yeah,
the matter?"
yeah." Breaking news at 11. Cameron Mitchell opening a hotel.
True.
We're excited for it. I'd stay there.
We'll see.
The CMC's tradition to take audience questions, and so what we'll have you do is state your name. You will ask your question, and to keep it fair and to keep it moving. No editorial comments. You're not going to get the recipe for the meatloaf. I've tried to get it for years. It's not going to happen. So we'll get the questions started. I think we have folks lined up over here.
Hi, my name is Renee Delane, and thank you for being a real person. I think this world is looking for people that are real. The question for you is, if you were given one day with anybody, living or not, who would you choose to spend it with?
Well, thank you very much, Renee. Appreciate number one. Number two, I was going to run for politics once. Debbie Price's seat got when she announced her retirement, so I met with one of our politicians for an hour at the airport before we left for D.C., and I couldn't run to my car fast enough. So that was my 1 hour foray into that. So if I could have an hour with anybody, you know, I'm not sure who it would be. I'm not sure who that would be. I might get an hour with Donald Trump to give him a piece of my mind, but that's a whole different story. So, okay.
I'd like to televise that.
I don't think it'll do any good, so it might be a waste of time.
Yes, my name is John McKnight, and so my Cameron Mitchell story, one of the first times I was at one of your restaurants, the waiter was taking drink orders, said, I'd like a beer, what type do you have? And his response was, don't worry about it, if we don't have it, I'll go out and get it for you. Very similar to the wine story you shared there. I've always carried that with me, and I've tried to instill that in employees and coworkers, that spirit, to pass it on to our customers. And I've had some success, but some failures in getting the employees to buy in to that. Aside from lead by example, is there any, do you have like a go-to play, one thing that you say, this is, if you're having trouble with that, this is what you need to do?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Obviously, I lead by example. That's for openers. But a lot of people ask us about that. How do we even achieve it? I get the two questions I get thousands and thousands and thousands of times over is, where do you get such great people, and how do you deliver such great service? And the answer is effectively both the same. But when our people know how much we care about them and how much we want to serve them and how we do serve them, then that breaks those binds, and they're able to serve and want to serve others. And I always talk about our culture and values as not an entitlement, and we make sure we preach that a lot. It's you have to work within our culture and values to receive the benefits of our culture and values. So we're one of those companies that offboards people very quickly within the first 90 days of their employment, or they stay with us for many, many, many years. Because they can't get into the culture and buy into the company culture and values. So, but I always tell people, we don't just walk the walk and talk the talk, but we run the walk. I mean, till people are blue in the face, do we reinforce our culture and values day in, day out, time in, time out. And, we have constant change of people within our system. We have a little bit of turnover, and it's natural, and especially in this business. And although it's far below national averages, we still have it. So you can't just assume your culture is alive and well today, and it's all taken care of. It's a daily reinforcement, daily discussion. It's all part of our pre-shift meetings. I mean, we can't talk about it enough. So hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Hi, Cameron. My name's Frank Mayer. I'm with VACO here in Columbus. You had mentioned a mind shift in your early years. I wonder what you attribute that to, and I wondered if you had a reading recommendation for somebody that's still chasing their dreams and running into those obstacles.
Well, I think you're talking about the mind shift I had.
From being the laziest in the
yeah,
kitchen.
Yeah, well, that was an epiphany.
Writing
But I
goals
was,
down.
I had an epiphany. I was searching. I knew I was going to be successful. I knew I was going to work. I just didn't know what it was. And so I was searching. It's like when I met my wife, I was already looking. I knew, when she came along, it's just there and happened. And so, so I think that's the piece that preparation, those realizations don't come immediately. Sometimes it takes work and preparation for it. So as far as book readings go, I don't know that I can answer that. Anybody knows me knows it's kind of ironic. I wrote a book because I hate to read. So it's not really in my mindset. I don't know if that helps or not, but any of the great books, the easy people development books, not the textbooks. Yes.
I'm going to help the PR company out. The answer is yes. What is the question? Would be a great book for you to pick
There you
up
go. There you go.
to read.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate that.
Hi, Cameron and Monica. My name is Autumn Theodore, and as a local entrepreneur, I am a huge fan of you as a person, Cameron, and obviously also of the food. So since I've been to so many of your restaurants, I'm always so interested in how you actually are inspired to do so many different concepts. I feel like that is not something that I've experienced so much with other business owners and other restaurants. So what makes you choose the next concept, or how have the concepts in the past been chosen?
Well, there's no particular rhyme or reason to that. You know, one of my mentors, early mentors, is Rich Melman, who to me is the greatest restaurateur in the country out of Chicago, and he's created, I don't know, 50 or 60 different concepts, and is just very, very successful, and actually did an endorsement for me on the back of my book, but a great guy. So I've always kind of had that mentality to a certain extent, that multi-concept restaurant operator, and most major cities have them. And Columbus was a niche that I saw that we didn't have that. And so, so it kind of happened. And then when we think about, so we've done a tremendous amount of development in Columbus. We are kind of at the tail end of that right now. We really don't have any restaurants planned after next year in Columbus. And we went 6 years without opening a restaurant in Columbus. From 2006, when we opened Marcellus, to 2012. We were focusing on out-of-town development. And now, when we look at the immediate forward direction of the company, we're focusing on our Ocean Prime brand and a national brand, and we'd like to take Hudson 29 and Cap City out of town and give those a test run and trial run. I think we can build some more of those around the country. So we will probably pull off the gas considerably here in Columbus and accelerate and for the next several years focus exclusively out of town. That does not mean we will not build more restaurants in Columbus. We will, especially when the opportunity comes. So, you know, most of the restaurants are opportunistic. When the Pearl came available, you know, I called Mark Wood up, the owner of the building. I said, "Are you going to do a restaurant there still?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how much do you want for it?" He said, "80, you know, whatever it was." And I said, "I'll take it. Send me a lease." And he goes, "No negotiation, nothing. I just, I'll take it, send me a lease," which, of course, I knew it was a great rent, so I didn't really care. I needed it, and I had a great relationship with Mark, so I didn't really need to worry about it. But back then, gastropubs were huge, and so it became our version of the gastropub. You know, the barn out in New Albany. Dave Miller, our president, chief operating officer, is sitting here today. He said, Don Casto Group called him and said, "Hey, before I tell, you know, want to see if we're interested in it was Hoggy's old barn. Barbecue place. Hey, before I tell them no, I just want to double check with you. We don't want any interest in that." I said, no, tell them thanks, but no thanks. Starts to walk away. I said, tell them we'll call them back in a couple days. We might be interested. And I'd been to a place called the Angus Barn in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the #1 restaurant in North Carolina. And I'm like, that'd be perfect, you know, for here. So there's really no rhyme or reason to them. It's more opportunistic. Hudson 29 and Lane Avenue. Well, I live down the street. I'll be damned if I have another restaurant down the street from me. I got to have one right there. So, you know, so that's how that came about. So it just depends how things happen. If that makes sense.
Thank you so much, and I hope that you don't stop here. So
We won't. I
you.
promise you that.
Thank you. Robert E. Lee III touched on hospitality. And so you kind of answered my question, Kim. You know that I have across the spectrum of hospitality, hotels, restaurants, private clubs. And with you mentioning what you shared about the potential hotel opportunities that you're considering, you know, I'm in that casual dining space now, and I've wanted to get back into the fine dining component. But I've had mentors tell me that having too much interest in varying spaces in hospitality is a challenge.
Sure is.
That's my background, that's my interest. And so navigating that is the question.
Yeah, and well, it is, I totally agree. And one of the things we've learned over the years is the more we're focused, the better we are. And so we've really identified 4 pillars within our organization, and that's, our catering business, our specialty restaurants, our Rusty Buckets, and our Ocean Primes. And we have dedicated teams of people. We're fortunate to be fairly large now. We're up to almost 5,000 people to have these. We have dedicated teams within those 4 different divisions. And if we ever started a hotel division, we'd have another singular dedicated team to that, because the multiple disciplines is very, very challenging. And so So the more we have a focused operations team and focused teams supporting those businesses, the better and more refined we can be. So it's a challenge, though, but if you love the business, nothing wrong with it. I appreciate what you're doing, applaud what you're doing. So.
And these will be the last two questions.
Since Robert's the third, I'll mention I'm John Lowe the third. I'd like to know a little bit more about the curriculum at Columbus State. How do you put that together, and who's going to carry it out, things of that sort?
Well, we got Chef Jim Taylor here and his group. Jim has been leading the charge down there at Columbus State for many, many years, and like I said, they've done an awesome job there. And our job is not to we're not to dictate to Jim. Jim's leading the charge. He's the culinary educator. We're not. Our job is to help Jim and help his team with that curation of the restaurants and the curriculum and helping build that curriculum. But really, in terms of delivery and how that's going to happen, we're here to augment them and to help support them. But they're the leaders down there, and they're going to make it happen. So that's the best way I can explain it. But a lot of good things. One of the things I'd like to do is a hospitality survey course for our young people entering. It's one of the first courses they take, because most people don't realize there are so many different avenues in this wonderful business that people could take. It's not just restaurants, it's not just hotels, it's not just catering. And we've got a lot of community support. You know, Wendy's is one of our supporters. Well, we need to advocate in the fast food segment. We've got fast casual. We've got contract feeders. We've got our suppliers. You know, Wasserstrom's in the room here, one of the big supporters of that project down there. And, you know, being in the supply business. So there's just so many different aspects of it that we want to teach and preach to our young people. Yes, sir.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm going to keep the trend going. I am Cornell Bradbury III. But first of all, I wanted to say, Cameron, you know, I really appreciate you just mentioning about the leadership and the mentorship toward the younger community who's coming up. One of my great friends, Michael Redd, and who I think is a good friend of yours too, over the last 6-7 years have been mentoring me in the whole, you know, business sector kind of things. And one of the things he always says is that, Cornell, you're your own competition. Don't ever feel like you can't give back, and that someone's, you know, in it to take from you and things of that nature. So I just appreciate you sharing that. But my question would be, why is the book called Yes is the Answer versus any other title that you could have named it?
Well, yes is the answer. What's the question has been the cultural foundation of our company since day one. It's when I sat in my apartment, the first 30 days, I wrote our company culture and values and goals, and then we have 5 pillars to our culture and 8 core values, and then finally was the answer is yes. What's the question? The milkshake came along in 2002 or 2002. With my son and an experience I had at a local restaurant. And then that became the real anchor and defining moment that we use to celebrate hospitality and reiterate the answer is yes. What's the question? In our company today, we make thousands of chocolate milkshakes every year with our people. So, but to me, when we you know, it's like naming a restaurant. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. You know, it takes months and months just to labor on. And I imagine naming a book is the same way, but for us, we had might have been a 30-second debate about what the name of the book is going to be, and it would quickly surface that yes is the answer, what's the question? So it's on the wall in our office, it's how we live, it defines us, and it made a lot of sense to me. And before I appreciate that, before I get cut off, I just want to make sure I reiterate here that the success of Cameron Mitchell Restaurants is, yes, I happen to be at the helm, okay, but I'm surrounded by some incredibly wonderful people, thousands of people in our organization who've been with us. Some, you know, Stacy here has been with me since day one. She's associate 002. I'm 001. We have, you know, Dave, Diane, all these other people at our table have been here for years and years and years, and even the people have been here a year or 2 or 3. But then, and that's just part of the success as our people. We've had thousands of people over the years, like I talked about Bruce here, and so many other people in this room, you know, Beth over at HNB and Rich at Porter, and all these guys here that have around the room that have helped us lean in to put our company forward. And so, yes, you know, my name's on the company, name's on the door, but I want to make sure I'm crystal clear that I'm one guy, and that the success of our business is really by thousands of people working inside and outside of our business, helping move us forward. So thank you very much.
I also want to encourage you to take a look up here because Cameron's book is here, and I believe he has agreed to sign all of them, so if you purchase them now, is that correct, Cameron?
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
So if you purchase them today and now, you
No, I
can.
won't do that. No is the answer.
Dear, oh dear. Well, then you can't come back, sorry. Okay, let's thank BDO, Isaac Wiles, and Columbus
Couldn't
State Community College for their support tonight, this morning. And of course, our speakers, Cameron Mitchell and Monica Day. And thanks to all of you for being here.